Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kai here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And in today's video, I want to talk about Coldheart and Roguard. So they're two enemy max HP characters. They're both very popular characters. And so I kind of want to break down the pros and cons. They're also very similar characters. So that's why I want to break down the pros and cons of each one, where I like to use them, how like mainly dungeons, they're purely like dungeon characters. Don't really see them in Clan Boss, don't really see them in Arena. So purely dungeon characters, where I like to use them, let's get into it. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about how to gear them. And there's some subtle difference. Ideally, you would gear them very similarly, but there is a couple differences that I wanted to bring up. So main thing is going to be for both of them, it's going to be you want decent speed, but the priority is going to be crit rate, crit damage, and then crit rate and crit damage and speed are like the top three stats, and then with accuracy being a solid fourth. Ideally, you would want all four. Me personally, how I use Roguard, I don't really prioritize the accuracy for the purpose. He does have a lot of good moves that I think I'm in a very unique spot where I have characters like Venus and stuff like that. So defense down, like the things that he provides, I don't need to apply. But for the purposes of like a guide, I do want to say like getting about 200 accuracy is really good for him. Also, when it comes to Coldheart, it's going to be very similar. You're going to be prioritizing speed, crit rate, and crit damage. Big difference is going to be with her though, is she has 30% crit rate built into her A3, which is kind of nice. So then it makes it a lot easier to hit really big crit damage numbers with her because you don't have to focus so much of it on crit rate. So that's kind of a nice thing about her. Also, she has a very impactful thing built into her move here, which is the reduces turn meter by 100%. Also, she has heal reduction. So that's why I prioritize accuracy a lot more on Coldheart than I do Roguard, because those kind of moves are very unique. 100% turn meter reduction and heal reduction, especially for where she really shines, which is Fire Knight, are essential to beating that dungeon. So I make sure 100% have 200 plus, 250-ish accuracy when it comes to Coldheart. And then since their damage is based off of enemy max HP, I believe how the modifier works is after a certain point, like so for example, see how it says attack and then enemy max HP? After testing it a lot, I really don't think, I think after a certain point, based on how much health the boss has, it just completely takes over and only does enemy max HP. So that's why you can get away. So like I've had Arbiter do attack up. I've had the attack percentage on Roguard, all that stuff. And then the damage numbers are very similar. So I think after a certain point, it just takes over and then the attack portion just doesn't matter. So you could get away with some more survivability. So for example, her chest can have, instead of attack, you can have like health percentage, stuff like that. But I use these guys to run through other dungeons. So like in Spider, I just completely nuke it. So with two Roguards, for example. So it doesn't matter for him to have attack percentage on his chest, but I use him in Fire Knight and I use him in Dragon, and then they use their A3 and they use their A1. So I like to have the attack percentage. So, but there is, arguments for and against maybe getting away with just like a defense percentage chest or a health percentage chest, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter too much. Oh, and then last thing I want to say when it comes to these guys. So yes, these guys are epics. And then when it comes to their skills, I wanted to bring up booking these guys. So when it comes to Coldheart, it's just a no-brainer. Just book her. She's a rare. She's like the best rare. I would say she's like the second best rare in the game. Just book her all the way. No questions asked. It's not really a big deal. But epic books are a lot more rare. And when I see this move here, see this takedown, and I see plus 5% damage on an entire book just for that, I'm like, I was very hesitant on it. But I did run two Roguards for a long time, and then I ran them. I tested them. This one not booked. Like it didn't have books on this guy at all. Whereas I've had this Roguard fully booked the entire time because he was my first epic and I just went ham. I didn't have any way to gauge, but what I can assure, especially on like Spider and stuff like that, if you're really using the nuke, books are super valuable on Roguard. Like absolutely book him without question. I do think it's worth it. I really do, because it's about like 200 to 300k difference in damage after booking him when I had both of them very similar in gear, like at plus 200 crit damage there, plus 212, and it was a massive difference in damage that they were doing until I booked that second Roguard, and then his damage numbers are like identical. All right, and with that, let's get on to the dungeon specific stuff. So I wanted to be able to compare the differences. So the first thing I want to do First thing I want to do is I want to talk about the differences between these two characters in each dungeon, starting with Spider. They both have their strengths and benefits when it comes to these guys. I think I'm going to start with their AI. Their AI it's just a little different, not crazy. The difference is Roilguard is going to AoE first, like prioritizes his A2 only assuming that there's a defense down first. His pairings are, you definitely want to, both of these characters, you're going to want to pair with a defense down, preferably a defense down and a weaken if you can swing. Absolute biggest priority is a defense down. So characters like Tyrell, Venus is another one. Razin is good if you not great, but good because, everyone eventually gets him. He has a defense down and weaken, but he is off affinity. So stuff like that. You want to pair him with those. So he'll do his A2. The difference is Coldheart, though, will do her A2 first and then her A3, just like how Roilguard does it, but her nuking move is her A3. You can force her to do her A3 when you're autoing it. If you click the boss, she'll just prioritize it. The differences are he's going to hit the spiderlings, whereas she is not with the nuke move. So she's a lot more flexible in the different strategies you can use on the spider if you don't have a team that can just nuke it straight off. So I personally use Roilguard because I'm using a comp like this where it's literally just these four, and then this nukes it in about 22 seconds because it goes like defense down, weaken, hit, reset, and then hit, and it's over. But for example, if I was using my old strat where I had defense down, Roilguard, and Ignatius, or like it doesn't matter. Ignatius is not the thing here. It's just AoE HP burn. Having this, there was a lot of anti-synergy there because defense down, I'm going to want that regardless. But this AoE move is going to kill the spiderling, so it's really tough. I would have to wait it out, and there wasn't enough turn meter reduction to get away with it. So you kind of had to wait for him to go. So you'd want the spider to go and then eat all the spiderlings. So then now you have 2 turns. So it was just really frustrating. If I happened to pull Coldheart during that time, it would have been really easy because it's a defense down. She will reduce his turn meter. So I don't have to worry about, so I have 2 characters here that have reduced turn meter. And then the spiderlings are untouched. So you have all of them to tick HP burn on, which is great. That's why for a really popular strategies of the, AoE HP burn move, Coldheart is significantly better when it comes to that. It just makes it a lot easier to do. Personally, if I'm going to be using Roilguard, I want to do a complete nuke strategy or a strategy where I have an off affinity tank, for example, like Nizana or Sinesha, or people another character that's super good for this is this guy. I don't have him ranked up, but I've seen a guy literally just these 3 characters right here with it's on Reddit. You can see his stats. He just has the speed lead. This guy, Miscreated Monster, and Roilguard, literally these 3 characters, and they can complete the dungeon. Point being is that Roilguard is way better with a tank, whereas Coldheart can be used with a tank and can be used with HP burn characters as well. So that's kind of the main difference that I've found when it comes to these guys. Okay, and so now let's talk about Dragon. Roilguard is going to be better for Dragon, and Coldheart is definitely better for Fire Knight. But I do like using Roilguard in Fire Knight as well, and I'll get to that later. But Roilguard is just significantly better when it comes to Dragon. Reason being his AoE. I'll just play it. It'll be a little better to watch. But so just like before, defense down and weaken are going to be super important for this. But having the AoE is just a no-brainer that Roilguard is just a better character for this. He just does so much more. He does everything that Coldheart would do, but in an AoE version. His typing is good. He's blue on blue. So difference being in Spider, you can have a 85% crit rate, and that will count as 100%. Whereas in Dragon, you're going to definitely need that 100% crit rate. That's going to be the main differences here. There is strategies when it comes to Dragon where it's the point of it is you just get a team that can survive with everyone to the dragon, and then you have one character in your team beats the dragon, does enough damage to beat the dragon. So you could theoretically use Coldheart for that, but I think there's better characters for that. I don't really like that strat when it comes to Coldheart for beating a dragon. I would prefer a poisoner, so like Eothar, Occult Brawler, stuff like that, Nethril, whatever. If you have a really good one versus Coldheart. If you had to have if you need to, if you're kind of just starting out and that's your one character you got that can do it, by all means do that. But that's how I look at it when it comes to beating dragon. Like Occult Brawler is amazing for that strategy of like getting a character to survive until you get the dragon. I just don't think Cold Heart is really made for that. And then lastly, we got the differences between these two for Fire Knight. And so Fire Knight is just clearly like if you can make one character that would be perfect for Fire Knight, I feel like Cold Heart is it. You got four hit on her A1, also does heal reduction, and her max HP nuke with a turn meter reduction is like literally the things you would want for Fire Knight. Like characters you want, you're obviously going to want multi-hitters, you're going to want defense down and weaken again, and then counterattack is huge for this. I really like running counterattack. It really helps a lot. Like you could theoretically do it without it. It would make the run faster, but I like to just have the consistency. If I have counterattack Valkyrie, it makes it a lot easier. But those are characters that are going to synergize well with Cold Heart to make this run doable. And then I did want to touch on Royal Guard. So yes, he's off affinity for this. Like that's one of the key drawbacks to this with using Royal Guard. But since he is AoE and people just have a ton of max HP, even the mobs do in the earlier waves, I still like using Royal Guard. I think he's really good at this. So even though he's off affinity, I think he's good. I say that just as he dies, but you get a lot of breaks when you have Arbiter in here. You might not be able to run this particular strategy if you're looking for Arbiter. You might need a tankier, slower team. But this is what I got currently going on. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip to this being finished and we can move on with the video. All right, guys. Well, that should do it for this video. I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any more questions, let me know down in the comments below. And also Discord, I'm really trying to pitch that Discord beyond there. I'm going to be a lot more active on that guy. So hit me up on that as well. And you guys have a good day. Peace.